dreadful at halftime for the Steelers, who couldn't get anything going, and then suddenly they do. And Roethlisberger, again with the 3 touchdowns. Najee Harris has 2 total, 1 by ground, 1 by reception. Kirk Cousins, not even close to 50%. I have no idea if he played well or not. And I watched every play of the game, and I watched him. Dalvin Cook played well. That I know. Justin Jefferson, I have no idea if he played well. 7 for 79, a touchdown. We're going to get to it. Break it all down. But the Vikings get a win. All right, 2-time Super Bowl champion Brian McFadden joining JJ. I'm Eric Casillas. Jonathan, I'll start with you. What am I supposed to think if I'm a Viking or a Viking fan right now?
You can't be happy. You're relieved, right, that you came away with this win. Certainly, in 30 game minutes before that, you thought, well, we're gonna just walk away easily and get this win. We're gonna have a little mini bye here, nice little break and rest up. No, it didn't work out that way. This was about as bad a win as you can get if you are the Minnesota Vikings. Yet again, another game coming down to the wire. And the Minnesota Vikings have led in all of their games so far this season, but of course they've lost 7 of them. And this was very close to being another one. And you'd have to like Pittsburgh's chances if they would have made it to overtime, whether they won the coin flip or not, just the way the game was going. But Kirk Cousins did not play well tonight, including that pick 6. Now, it didn't help that his receiver stopped on the route, of course, but Kirk Cousins, less than 50% completion percentage, where he has led the league in completion percentage the last couple of years. You look at Justin Jefferson, a very, very forgettable night for him. Whether you want to call them drops or balls that he should have caught, but you don't want to call him a drop, whatever you want to say, he did not have the sort of night that you would expect the best young wide receiver in the NFL to have in a game that, listen, it's the postseason for both of these teams at this point. I'm not saying it's win or go home just yet, but you have to win these football games. And the Minnesota Vikings, their star players outside of Dalvin Cook, didn't play that way for a full game.
B-Mac, same question. I'm a Viking fan. I'm a Viking player. I'm a Viking coach. What am I supposed to think and feel right now?
They need to be happy. They need to be ecstatic because think about this, guys. How many times have the Vikings been on the wrong end of a game like this? Go back to last week. Lost on the last possession of the ball game against the Detroit Lions. What about the last possession against the Arizona Cardinals? What about the last possession against Cincinnati? What about the last possession against Baltimore? All of those games, they've lost. They've found a way to lose those ball games. And I know it was a horrible second half by the Minnesota Vikings, but that has been who they've been the entire season. First half-wise, they've been one of the best teams in the National Football League, but they have found ways to not finish the drill. And tonight, it was super ugly. There was nothing about this game was cute or pretty at all. But get this, and guess what? They won. Remember how they felt last week? We were all together last Sunday when they lost that horrible game on the last possession to the Detroit Lions. So for me personally, it was ugly, but they need to be jumping for joy that they finally found a way to win a close one-possession ball game, last possession ball game.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they've lost more. They've done both. I mean, they were done against Detroit and came back and won. They beat Carolina and looked like they were done. They beat Green Bay in a close game. And we've had their other losses that we missed. I get it. It's a player's perspective, which is it's hard to win a game. You don't give it back. You feel good about it. Now, B-Mac, you first here. How am I supposed to feel if I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler, if I'm Ben Roethlisberger, if I'm Chase Claypool? I mean, if I'm Mike Tomlin, my guys played their guts out. They didn't quit, but we just weren't good enough and we had a loss. How am I supposed to feel if I'm a Steeler?
You should be annoyed. You should be frustrated. The fans are frustrated. The players, the organization, everyone associated with the organization should be frustrated. And here's why. You mean to tell me you're down 29 points in the first half and found a way to fight back to make this thing a nail biter? Where was a portion of that play in the first half? Defensively or offensively? So for what I understand short week physical game against your rival in the Baltimore Ravens. No excuses. No excuses because they showed that they can play football. They just were sleeping at the wheel in the first half. And because of that, they came up with a huge loss. Think about this. In the first half of play, if their defense came up with one extra stop or if their offense came up with one scoring drive, it's safe to say based on what they did in the second half, they would have won this ball game. So me personally, they should be annoyed and frustrated because it's one thing to get blown out the entire ball game, right? But it's a total different feeling when you get blown out in a half, and all of a sudden in the second half, you hit the light switch and now you're playing football.
Yeah, the Steelers can only blame themselves here for that. And it's because of the first 30 minutes of the football game that they were in that position. Yeah, you want to be able to have Pat Freiermuth come up with that football. That's not what lost them the game. There were still a couple more steps for them to even have to tie the game and then to ultimately win the game. I'll take you, though, EK. You mentioned if you're Ben Roethlisberger, if you're Chase Claypool. I'll tell you if you're Chase Claypool. I'll tell you if you're Mike Tomlin. There's about 35 seconds left in the game, and Chase Claypool makes a catch. And he's near the hash marks, and they get the first down. There's no timeouts left, and Chase Claypool is pointing and signaling first down and sort of celebrating down one possession, and I gotta have it.
We're yelling, line up, like we're yelling at him collectively, like get in the huddle, line up, the game is going on, guy.
They lost because he didn't get the ball to the referee, and then when he finally did, it was getting sort of kicked around and booted around. And the Pittsburgh Steelers lost, I would argue, a possession. They lost another throw into the end zone. Okay, you don't get it to Freiermuth there. That's okay. There's still a couple ticks left on the clock because Chase Claypool was supposed to hand it to the referee, and then the referee was going to spot the ball, and you were going to save 5 or 6 seconds. That's a play. That's an extra play. And Chase Claypool, on that catch, made a terribly boneheaded decision that made no sense whatsoever. That, it was just recently that he was like, we need to play music. He needs to stop acting like a child. That's not what professionals do, B-Mac. You have to know the down and distance. You have to know the situation. And this isn't even football 501. This is 101. You know you don't have timeouts. You know you're scoring. You know that you have to get the football to the referee. What are you doing?
Just not aware of the situation. And let's keep it real. Chase Claypool, he gave some nice numbers, but he had some mental mistakes that really hurt the Steelers. The personal foul, taunting penalty where he poked Rashard Breeland in the helmet, the missed block. I mean, it wasn't his best effort, and clearly, yes.
And yet he had some amazing catches and a fourth down conversion. That's a microcosm to me of this game. You pick anybody but basically Dalvin Cook, who was pretty awesome start to finish. Everybody else, if I look at the 3 best things they did, I'm going to go, wow. And if I look at the 3 worst things they're going to do, I'm going to go, wow. Whether it's Cousins, Roethlisberger, whether it was anybody, one of these guys, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Freiermuth, Justin Jefferson. Everybody seemed to have 3 great plays and 3 terrible plays. Other than Dalvin Cook, who was the best player on the field tonight, B-Mac?
Oh, that's a good question. Other than Dalvin Cook,
I'm going to say it was Big Ben.
Yeah, Big Ben. I would say Big Ben. And
I don't feel great about it. I'm willing to take I'm not saying hold all calls, we have a winner. I'm willing to hear an argument. I'll be swayed.
But think about this. Big Ben did all his damage in the second half. And remember pregame, we talked about some of the things to look for in this ball game. And the issue with Big Ben, I understand he's not the same Big Ben. But when his offensive line is not protecting him, he doesn't stand a chance. He doesn't stand a chance. But if they give him a little bit of hope, like they did in the second half, he still can be very, very effective and productive. And 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, all in 2 quarters. Because I think at halftime, he might have had 60 yards passing, if that. He was sacked about 4 times in the first half, 4 or 5 times. This offensive line played better. That's the key for Pittsburgh. If 7 gives you any production,
right, that's what I'm saying.
9 times
Ben
out of 10
didn't
is
play
because
badly in the first half. He didn't really have a chance in the first half, which is why I would take him slightly over Najee Harris. Other than Dalvin Cook, who was the best player in the field tonight?
Yeah, it was Ben Roethlisberger for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and for everybody on the Pittsburgh Steelers, you say, well, you got to forget about the first half because nobody played well. Also, and shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense for being able to allow the offense to mount this comeback without T.J. Watt out there on the field, and that's something that we're going to have to watch for, a guy who was in the top 5 MVP voting if you were able to vote for the MVP this week of the NFL season in Week 14. I'd also say Najee Harris, who I think only had about 17 rushing yards in the first half, ended up with 90+. So he had a very nice second half as well, was able for the Pittsburgh Steelers to stay on schedule, to do what they wanted to in their game plan offensively, to keep Ben Roethlisberger straight up and allow the passing game to stay open. So it would certainly be, number one, Ben Roethlisberger for me, who, listen, he looked shot most of the time. But in the fourth quarter last week against the Baltimore Ravens, in the third and fourth quarters tonight against the Minnesota Vikings, I mean, I'm not going to say it was vintage Roethlisberger, but he very much looked like a guy who had enough left in the tank to get his team a win and to continue playing football. I don't think he can string that together for 4 quarters in an 18-week regular season. But he's done it. He did it in the fourth quarter against the Ravens. He did it in the second half tonight.
Yeah, last 8 starts for Ben, 15 touchdowns, 3 picks. Look, and I think you're right. It's really been not full games, but moments. Fourth quarter against Baltimore, second half tonight. Ultimately, though, it doesn't get done for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is now 6-1, and the Vikings are now 6-7. Either, neither, or both. Who makes the playoffs out of these two? B-Mac.
The Vikings.
Just one.
I say the Vikings because NFC is so wide open. You have so many teams with like records right now that still have a heck. The Giants are still in the playoff picture. The Seahawks, the Bears. So me personally, seeing what happened tonight, winning for the Minnesota Vikings, I think the Vikings has an easier path to get into the playoffs than the Pittsburgh Steelers, because the AFC, you have more competitive teams with better records than the NFC.
Yeah, I'd agree with B-Mac. The Vikings do have the easier path. Remember, they have the Bears twice. They still haven't played the Bears yet.
Are they making the playoffs?
I mean,
either, neither, or both.
If I had to say, I would say neither.
I'm with you.
Because I look at the NFC playoff picture right now, and I like the teams in the NFC playoff picture. I like the Rams there. I like the Washington football team. I think they're going to be competitive. I still like the Niners. And then you look at the AFC, of course, and the Steelers. I keep talking about it. I've said it ever since we were sitting here when the Steelers tied the Lions. That tie is going to hurt the Steelers because that's a guaranteed win against the Detroit Lions. You cannot tie against them. They should be 7-6, and then they could get to 10 wins. But 9.5 wins is not going to get it done in the AFC.
I didn't believe in Pittsburgh. I just didn't think they were good enough in the trenches, and I think ultimately they'll be a little short. The Vikings won, and I feel worse about their playoff chances. I never thought that I would feel that way when I woke up this morning, that if the Vikings won, I would feel worse about this team, barring some kind of major injury to one of their big players. Sure. My trust factor, I wouldn't go on a trust fall at the Vikings for anything. I don't trust them at all. And I picked them to make the playoffs at the start of the year, and I'm now like, no lead is safe. No lead is safe. With Minnesota, they find a way to play one possession, one play games every single week. Well done. Bryant McFadden, Jonathan Jones, CBS Sports senior NFL writer, getting it done, breaking it down. So, there you go. Dalvin Cook certainly did his part. 200 plus, couple of rushing touchdowns. Not bad for a guy that was going to be a game-time decision. See how much pain he could take in his shoulder. Well, you know what he said? To quote Carlito's way, here come the pain. That's right, 205. By the way, 206, Dalvin Cook, and then some guy named Adrian Peterson. He's loose. Respect to Paul Allen there. Vikes getting it done. They're 6-7.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.